All right. So let's now create the login endpoint. So now, once we are done with the login endpoint, so we'll now go to the front end. We'll create the login, the sign up, and the login form. Then we are going to integrate this backend endpoint into the front end implementation. So let's first of all create the endpoint for logging into the application. So this endpoint is going to return a login response. All right, we are going to create a DTO for this. So let's just say login. Let's say login response. Okay. So let's say attribute getter, attribute setter, attribute all args, attribute no arg constructor. All right. So that's it. So we are going to return a message, string message. We are going to return a message. Then we are also going to return the user ID, string user ID. So we are going to return the username, string username. We are going to return the first name. Okay, so what's going to happen is that when we try to log into the application, if we successfully log in, this is the response that we are going to return to the front end. All right. So in the front end, this response will be extracted from this structure. Once it extracts all this response, like the message, the user ID, and everything, it's going to extract it and save it in the local storage. All right. So if we need to do anything we are doing in the front end, if we need any of this value, maybe the username, we can easily fetch it from the local storage and use it. So that's the idea. So let's now create the login endpoint. So it's going to return a login response. So let's say login. We are going to take, it's going to take an argument of login request. All right, we don't have it, but we'll create this DTO now. So let's create class. Let's create it in the DTO package. Right, so attribute getter, attribute setter, attribute all args constructor, attribute no arg constructor. So to log in, what we just need is the username and the password. All right, username, private string, password. All right, so that's all. So now let's override this method. So the first thing we need to do is to validate the fields coming from the login request. So we're going to say if request dot get password is equals to null, or request dot get username is equals to null. All right, we want to throw an exception, throw new empty field exception. Username and password are mandatory. All right, say http bad request. So that's the first thing. After validating, so the next thing, we would want to search the database to fetch the user, all right, to see that the user exists. So then we can say user repository dot find by username. All right, say request dot get the username dot s through new user not found exception. Okay, no user found. for the provided username. All right, let's see, let's just say request dot get username like this. Then we'll say http status dot not found, which is 404. Let's just add space here so that it's properly formatted. So let's create this exception class. All right, so we have created an exception class for this user not found. So let's now introduce local variable, which is user. So the next thing we would want to do, we are going to try to validate the password, the user's password, and the password that is being passed in the request. All right, so we can say something, we can do like this. We can say if not password encoder dot matches, so we are going to pass the password that is in the request, that is in the login request. All right, and then say user dot get password. So we want to compare. All right, so if it does not match, we could throw an exception. All right, so we are going to throw, if it does not match, we're going to throw new invalid password exception. Let's say you entered the wrong password. You entered a wrong password. All right, so this is bad request, http status dot bad request. All right, so that's that. Now once we have confirmed that the user exists and the password matches, so the next thing we have to do is just to log the user in, which is to return a new login response. All right, let's create a service, and then we can call it session management service. Okay, this should be an interface. All right, then we also have an implementation for it. Call it a session management implementation. All right, now this one is going to implement session management service. All right, so now we are going to have a couple of endpoints. So the first one, we need to have an endpoint that helps us to create a session. All right, so when the user log in, a session will be created for the user automatically. So let's, all right, so now we are going to say active session create a session. All right, so this is going to take user and string token as arguments. All right, because we are creating the session for a user. So let's now override this method. All right, and this is going to be a component. Let's make it a component. So all right, so let's add an helper method for creating session. So it's going to return active session. So let's say create a session. All right, it's going to take user, and it's going to also accept a token as argument. All right, so let's create a new section. Let's say active session will be equals to new active session. All right, so we'll say session does set user pass in the user, session.set token, pass in the token, session.set created at, you can say local datetime.now, then session dot I think that's all. So we'll just return the session. That's what we'll do. So we'll just return the session. So right here we can say private final session, is it, what do we call it? I think active section, active session repository, active session repository. So let's add this to a constructor. Then we can say active session repository dot save. So we'll call this one create a session. All right, so we'll pass the user, and we'll pass token. So all right, so save the session. So that's it. Can just return this. So this is it. So now we are going to have another functionality that helps us to invalidate an active session. All right, that is like to automatically delete a session. So when a user wants to log in, we will first of all, because we have already specified that we wanted the relationship between user and section to be a one-to-one relationship. So each user can have a single active session in a particular time. So if a user wants to log in into the application and he is already logged in, all right, or maybe there's a session that is already active for him, we want to invalidate any existing session before logging in and creating a new session for him. So that's the idea. All right, so now let's have let's say void invalidate active session. So it's going to return void, and then we're invalidating the session for a user. All right, so let's override this method. So now the first thing we need to do is to find the session. All right, we'll find the session by token, then we'll delete the session. So let's have a method like this. So private void find and delete session by token. All right, then you pass in string token, so it's taking token as an argument. Then we are going to say active session repository dot find by token. So we are going to find the session by the token. So if the session is available, all right, so we are going to say if present, that's if the session is found, then we want to say active repository, so we delete the session like this. All right, so that's one step. Then the next thing, let's create a method that will help us to invalidate sessions totally, like set the user status to false when the session is invalidated. So we can call it invalidate user session. All right, so it's going to take user as an argument, and it's going to take string token. So we are going to check, we are going to say if user.get session is not equals to null, that's if there is an active section, or user.get session, or not user.get session. Let me see, okay, no, it's not here. So let's just say if user.get session is not equals to null, so we'll call this method, so find and delete session by token. So we pass the token. All right, then after that we're now going to say user.set session, we'll set the session to null, then user.set token, to set the token to null. So user dot set login, set login. We can set login to false. Then we save the user. We say user repository. Okay, we need to inject private user repository. So say private final user repository. Let's add this here. So we can say user repository dot save. So we'll save the user. All right, so now let's just call this method here. So we are going to say invalidate user session, then we pass the user, and then this method is supposed to also take a token. So it's a mistake on my end. So you pass the user and the token. So that's all. So let's also come to this place and make sure this method takes a token as an argument. All right, so that's it for the session management. So when a user log in, we create a session for them, and when they log out, we invalidate their session. All right, so we delete the session. So that is basically what we are doing right here. So now let's come to this place. Once we have checked we found the user, all right, and we saw that the password match, the next thing, we have to invalidate any active section that they might have. So we're going to say private final session management service. So let's add this, and let's say attribute auto wire here. Let's add this. So now we can say session management service dot invalidate session. All right, so it's going to take user. Let's say user dot get token, like this. All right, so this is what we need to invalidate the session for a user. We need to generate a token for a user, but before we do that, we need to set the user in the security context. All right, so that Spring will recognize the user as authenticated when the user log in. So let's now inject the authentication manager here. So private authentication manager. So let's add this, and let's auto wire. All right, so what we'll do here, we are going to say authentication manager dot authenticate. So we'll say new user. All right, so we are going to say login. Okay, request dot get username, and request dot get password. So let's get the authentication. Authenticate. So we are going to say security context order dot get context dot set authentication. So we'll set it like this. So after doing it, the next thing is for us to say a JWT service dot generate JWT token. All right, so we are going to pass the user. We are going to say user dot get role. So it's going to return the token. All right, let's call this token. So after getting the token now, so we want to use the token to create our session. Session management service dot create session. So we are going to pass the user, and we'll pass the token. All right, so after passing, all right, so after creating the session, so let's introduce local variable here, session. So let's now say user.set session, so we can pass in the session. So user.set token, so we can set the token. So user.set logged in, we'll set it to true. All right, so we now save the user. Let's say user repository dot save. We're going to save the user like this. So after that, then we need to return this response. So let's say introduce local variable, call it saved user. All right, so let's say login logged in successfully. Sorry, let's say user logged in successfully. All right, so we're going to say saved user get first name. So saved user get last name. Saved user get username. Get username. Saved user gets email. Saved user get phone number, email. So saved user get profile picture, get profile picture. All right, so saved user get what else? I think that's all. Okay, okay, we can directly pass the token. All right, so let's remove this like this. So I think we are good to go with the login. So let's also have the API for logging into the application. So this one also the attribute post mapping. So we have /login. Sorry. Okay, let's say public response entity. We're going to use wildcard login user. All right, so this is going to take, let's say, attribute request body is going to take a DTO, which is login request. So the request, so now we can say user service dot login, so we can pass in the request like this. So this is going to return a login response. All right, login response like this. So we are going to say return response entity dot okay, so passing the response. All right, so we are done with the backend implementation for creating a user, that's registering a user, and also signing into the application, and also other authentication related functionality.